The other day, someone asked me, is there anything that you can think of that could have been different when you were a child, that someone could have done that would have potentially ended the alienation? And I thought about it for a few minutes. And I said, almost without thinking, I just kind of knew it in my bones. I said, they would have had to separate me from my mom. They would have had to separate me from her. In a world where pathological parents can destroy their child's loving relationship with their other parent, survivors must fight to uncover the sinister lies behind this mind-bending form of abuse. Hi, welcome to the Anti-Alienation Project, where I discuss all things parental alienation from the point of view of a formerly alienated adult child in the process of recovery and rebuilding my relationship with my dad. Whew, that was a lot. I'm Maddie, and today I'm going to be doing a reaction video. I have not watched this video, and I've wanted to, but I've been putting it off. When I first heard about these reunification camps, thoughts are, well, at least they're doing something. It's a move in the right direction, maybe. They're doing something, so that at least they've got that going for them. Number one, no effective treatments or interventions for parental alienation currently exist. You have to understand that the pathological parent is just like a toxin to the child, especially in the more extreme cases. And in these cases, I firmly believe, as an adult who has been through this for 20 years, I needed to have been separated from her. And I think a lot of these kids out there need to be separated from their pathological parent. I've done some research on these reunification camps. First of all, let's stop referring to these programs as camps. This is not a vacation. These kids are not sleeping in a tent or enjoying s'mores. They're not at a boot camp either. They're not preparing for battle. These kids are lifelong victims of abuse. They need to be treated delicately, and we need to be calling it treatment. But another reason why I feel perplexed about these reunification camps, although it is like the only option for these extreme cases right now, and in some sense it might be better than nothing. Anytime you have a program or treatment that is experimental and new, you're going to have many flaws, and sometimes even critical mistakes. Yes, this might be all that they have to give parents and kids in this extreme circumstance. I am inclined to think that they need to scrap these reunification camps and start over. That's my belief. And what I'm about to say is probably going to be controversial for a lot of people to hear, but at least they're trying something, so I'm going to give them that. They're trying to separate them from the pathological parent, so they're in the right direction. That's what needs to happen. But these camps, from what I can tell, last 4 or 5 days. No, that's not close to being long enough. In my opinion, these kids, especially in the more extreme cases, we need something better. Kids deserve better than this. If they're going to be put somewhere, these children, it should not be called a camp. It should not be designed like a camp. I hope that it could be another relative's home where they feel safe and genuinely loved and cared about. Yeah, I would propose a 4 to 6 month at minimum treatment program where the child could hopefully stay in a loved one's home where they're safe and protected from having to see either parent, honestly, and where they could stay with their siblings too, hopefully, to be deprogrammed, loved, cared about, and treated for long-term trauma and quite possibly complex PTSD. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start the reaction. So I haven't watched this yet, but here we go.
Sup, you beautiful bastards. Welcome back to the Philip DeFranco show. And then Colorado just became the first state to ban courts from sending children to so-called family reunification camps. And honestly, more states absolutely need to do the same because these places sound fucking evil. And I know for those...
I can tell he hasn't done much research into this topic. They need to be separated from the parents. If all we have to work with right now is a reunification camp for 4 or 5 days, it's freaking better than nothing. I'm sorry if I sound bad.
Some of you have some background, some are unfamiliar. I actually touched on these programs before on the show in a story about 2 teens in Utah who went viral on TikTok for posting live streams where they barricaded themselves in their mother's house, with them doing that to avoid a court order, putting them in the custody of their father who they said was abusive, and sending them to a reunification camp called Turning Points for Families. And the judge overseeing this making that decision despite the fact that back in 2018, state authorities had substantiated the children's claim that their father had abused them sexually and emotionally. And despite the fact that the father was also under investigation for new allegations. Now the father, for his part, denied the 2018 allegations, claiming they were made up as part of a...
See, this is how it gets so complicated, because some of these If people actually do get false allegations and false claims and even false convictions. That happened in my story, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that he's been falsely accused. But at the same time, if he is abusive, I understand why these kids wouldn't want to go with him.
By the kid's mother to turn them against him. And the judge somehow agreed with him, ruling that the children had been victims of what they refer to as parental alienation, which is a psychological theory where one parent brainwashes and manipulates a child.
It's not a theory, yo. I went through this, okay? My mom has told me since I was 9 years, sorry, my cat, since I was 9 years old that there is a hole in my heart because my dad doesn't love me. Why do all 4 of my younger brothers for the past 20 years have a healthy, happy relationship with my dad, and my mom targeted me, and I never even one time stayed the night at his house? And they all believe he loves them because she never told them any of that crap. That's called parental alienation. When one pathogenic parent targets a child or children and brainwashes and manipulates them into hating and fearing the other parent in order to weaponize the child to hurt the parent that makes them feel good inside because they're pathological, and number 2, to isolate that child from the other loving parent so that they can be fully controlled without any regard for the child. It's happening everywhere, more often than you would think. I keep watching because I'm getting a little worked up.
To cut off the relationship with the other parent. And very notably, that theory has been widely disputed by mainstream psychology, and the vast majority of the field doesn't even recognize it as a diagnosable condition.
That's not even true. Okay, so I talked to my therapist about this the other day because I have a therapist because I've been through parental alienation. This shit sucks. It's actually considered child. That's what it's considered. We're on the DSM-5, but the DSM changes all the time. It changes all the time. Just because parental alienation is not listed as a psychological condition in the DSM-5 currently does not mean it doesn't exist. It's child abuse and it's domestic violence because you're hurting that parent via the child. So please do better. You're spreading so much misinformation that's gonna hurt a lot of children when it comes down to it. Children. I've lived through this and it was a life of misery. These parents, the love they have for their child is more like a desire to possess them. They see their children as extensions of themselves to be used, to be weaponized, discarded. I wish more people would do a little bit more digging than a simple Google search. I don't want to keep watching this, but I will for you guys.
That has not stopped judges all around the country from sending kids to these so-called therapeutic camps that try to treat parental alienation. And of course, that is in no way the only horror story of kids being sent to these camps because of a theory that's widely considered to be bogus. With ProPublica, which...
Okay, at this point, I'm just getting so worked up. I want you to come and talk to me on my channel, please. It's not bogus. What do I have to do to convince people that this is real? I don't feel like I have a point to prove. Definitely not to myself, because I know that this has happened to me clear as day. But the fact that people want to say that this is not real, is it just that you can't comprehend a parent doing this to their child? Because if that's it, I understand why you wouldn't want to believe that, but some parents don't treat their children the way they should.
Huge report on those kids in Utah, also extensively covering the issue and reporting on a range of different cases, with a lot of it deep diving into the Turning Points program. In fact, lawmakers in Colorado even explicitly said that the outlet's coverage was the catalyst for bringing this new law about. And the other shit that ProPublica has uncovered is fucking wild. According to the outlet, yes, these camps are very controversial, and while there's very little independent research on how effective they are, experts say they do not properly address the underlying issues at play. I mean, just at the get-go,
they're only 4 or 5 days long. They're definitely not going to get to the root of the issue and fix it. These kids need to be separated from their pathological parent for, like I said, 4 to 6 months, maybe longer.
Many of these programs are entirely set up around denying children's abuse allegations. Some advocates of the parental alienation theory say there cannot be any abuse or neglect to make diagnoses. But plenty of others, including Linda Gottlieb, who operates Turning Points, accept cases that involve accusations of abuse even when those claims have been substantiated, which is exactly what happened to the 2 kids in Utah who were ordered to be sent to Turning Points. So basically, you have a system that's literally predicated on gaslighting, with Gottlieb even explicitly telling ProPublica she believes that parental alienation usually starts when people begin to believe children's claims of abuse, and saying, everyone knows children lie. Lying is so instinctual. Children love to make up stories. Why on earth do we believe that children are reporting accurately? Which
really not a good look for her, Linda Gottlieb. It's not a good look for her because Children are not lying. She has the wrong idea. That's not what happens. Children are not lying. They've been made to believe that either their parent has been abused or they have been abused, or both. Listen, when I was younger, we had this funny joke because the brother directly under me and I went to France for a vacation. And for years after that, my other brother, the second youngest brother, he claimed that he was in France too. And he was so young that he had seen all the pictures and heard all the stories about France that he truly believed that he went to France. But he was never there on that vacation. And to this day, he will insist that he's been to France, but he hasn't. I don't know if these people just haven't had children of their own, or maybe it was a long time ago and you forget what little kids are like. You can convince children of anything. You can convince them that they're a monkey if you do it well enough. Children are not lying. They truly believe these things. There was not even one point during the whole 20 years, not one point when I lied about my dad, about anything. I believed all of the lies. There's a difference between lying, knowing you're lying, and then as a child being brainwashed to believe lies, and then restating these lies because you believe they're true. I hope that makes sense. But she has that idea wrong.
That is an absolutely fucking insane thing to say. Yes, children lie. But then to use that as a justification of, yes, and they lie about everything is such a leap. It genuinely sounds like you're trying to make a smokescreen to keep the predators free. Right? So it makes sense that when you have a program that is structured on that belief, you're not going to be set up for success. But then also to make matters worse, these programs are given a ton of control over the welfare of the kids that they oversee and can put them in dangerous situations with their alleged abusers. For example, under the Turning Points program, children are sent to an undisclosed location for 4 days for what they refer to as a sequestration period, where they meet with a parent that they allegedly alienated during treatment. And after that, they're sent to stay in the custody of that parent and are banned from contacting their other parent or other related family members for a minimum of 90 days. But notably there, courts often give Turning Points the power to extend that period indefinitely until the children have been treated. And at this point, if you're like, there's no way I'm hearing Phil correctly, yes, you are. Children are literally taken away from the protective parent who expressed concerns about abuse.
No, they're not being taken away from the protective parent. I know this is crazy. It's an upside down world, and I can try to explain it more to you, clearer to you, but the parent who's making the abuse accusations is actually the abuser. It's an upside down world, and it is for the children too.
Neglect in the first place, and they are put in the care of a parent who they say abused them and then banned from reaching out to other family members for help. That's what these people fucking call therapy. And as a result, unsurprisingly, these programs have led to some absolutely horrible situations. For instance, ProPublica detailed the story of a Colorado mother who had sole custody of her 2 kids because an arbitrator restricted the father's parenting after hearing testimony from the children's therapist, with the arbitrator arguing that not doing so would endanger the kids' health and significantly impair their emotional development. But in August, the judge ruled fuck all that, ruling that the children were victims of parental alienation and order them to do the Turning Points Reunification program. And the mother, again, who claims that she was just trying to protect her kids from a dangerous situation with their father, was forced to foot the $15,000 bill for the 4-day camp. And after the 4 days, the kids moved in with their father for the 90-day period, during which they both ran away and reported that their dad was verbally and physically abusive to them. But there reportedly the police didn't charge the father. State officials closed the case with no findings against him, even though this man reportedly didn't even deny the claims. And even after that, the father was still granted an extension on the no contact period after the initial 90 days were up.
I don't know the specific case. It might have been one of those fluke cases where maybe the guy was actually treating them poorly. The problem is that no other option exists.
To stay in the Turning Point treatment with an unlicensed psychotherapist who was taken off Colorado's roster of approved custody evaluators for violating certain standards. And even beyond that, some children who attended the Turning Points program have said that the program itself is abusive. Right? In another recent report published a few weeks back, ProPublica detailed the experience of a pair of 12 and 16-year-old brothers who were court-ordered to attend a Turning Points reunification camp with their estranged father in Texas. And according to people who participated in the 4-day session, a Turning Points counselor had instructed adult family members to physically force the boys to cooperate, recorded therapy sessions despite their objections, and repeatedly threatened them, even telling the teenage brother he would go to jail if he didn't participate and might not ever see his mom again. You also had family members claiming that when the
It's obviously that's not okay.
refused to leave their bedroom and participate in what these people referred to as therapy, the counselor ordered that the door be taken off its hinges and their bedding, shower items, food, and clothing.
That's atrocious. That's atrocious. These are abuse victims. They've been through so much trauma already. This is really, really wrong, and they need to be in a treatment center being cared for like they have complex PTSD or something similar. This makes me really sad. They need to feel as safe as they can, and to have their bedding down to their food and clothes being removed. Oh my God.
Removed. And the first day after the boys came back from their session, were placed in their father's custody, the 16-year-old was hospitalized over fears he would hurt himself. And there he told doctors he had been physically assaulted at the Turning Points program. And this is according to medical records, which also documented faint linear marks on his upper arms where the teen claimed that his father had grabbed him. And as you'd expect at this point, this is not the only accusation against Turning Points, with ProPublica also reporting that another teen had accused the program of abuse during his 2016 therapy sessions in upstate New York. In question also told the outlet that when he rejected Gottlieb's attempts to record his sessions, he was pinned to the floor by his father and another man. And reportedly, both Gottlieb and the counselor in the Texas incident declined to comment on specifics of that ProPublica piece.
Okay, there you go. That's really effed up. It sounds like Turning Points is not great. There's just no other solution. And I don't know why. Actually, I do know why there is no other solution. Because if you can't say that parental alienation is real, then it's not a problem to be fixed. So until we get the UN to take back their statement, revise their statement, issue a new statement about the validity of parental alienation, how are we going to expect anyone to come up with a successful treatment program?
As the outlet's recent story about the new Colorado law, Gottlieb has previously defended her methods and called ProPublica's reporting libelous, but did not identify any inaccuracies in the reporting. But all of that brings us back full circle to the whole reason we're talking about this in the first place, the new law, with advocates now saying they hope that this will encourage other states to take similar action. And it does appear that there is something going on, because according to ProPublica, lawmakers in California and Montana are considering similar bills to the one passed in Colorado, as well as a report coming from the UN Human Rights Council published just this April recommending the court-ordered reunification camps be banned. So there's a little more hope today for these kids and these families in a really fucked up situation.
If you're going to cover something as serious as parental alienation, like, do a bit of research. I can tell he just had someone else tell him what to say, and that's really disheartening. Who's going to suffer from this the most? The kids, obviously. It's always the kids. My proposal is, let's prevent it from getting to the point where we need to send children to a treatment that causes potentially more trauma for them. One of the things that these professionals don't realize is that you can't force a child to accept or even come to terms with the fact that parental alienation has been going on. It's too heartbreaking of a choice for most children, teenagers, and young adults to make. The possibility that your good parent has been lying to you to hurt you and your other parent for years on end, brainwashing you to hate and fear your other parent, and making you completely dependent on them in turn. That's too overwhelming for most kids, teenagers, young adults, and even older adults. It's easier to keep up the status quo. It feels safer to live in that false reality. These kids are trying to survive. They've been systematically brainwashed, programmed to believe that their other parent is abusive. That's going to take more than 4 or 5 days to deprogram, and it sure as hell is not going to happen by throwing them in the lion's den with that parent. They need to be sent to a treatment center where they can feel safe, or to a loved one's house where it's not either of those parents, where they can feel safe, and it needs to be on their own terms. This is all so effed up, and that's all I have to say about that. Franco, you've got it really wrong. If you would like to come and talk to me or have an interview, or if you'd like to do more research yourself, talk to some people who've had experience with this, reissue a statement when you realize how you've just perpetuated on a very large scale, given your platform, some serious misinformation. It's not going to protect any children, and I know that you probably did not do it on purpose, but God, this is just a mess. Sorry, that was like way worse and darker and worse than I expected it to be. Ugh. I'm gonna go watch some Matt Rife now because I really like the comedian. He's so funny. So that's all I have for you today. This is my least favorite YouTube video I've made, and I don't even know if I want to cover this anymore. I know parental alienation is real, and I just want to help those people who are experiencing it. At the same time, there needs to be a better option than these camps. Anyway, thanks for sticking with me through that video. I hope you got something useful from this video. Hopefully. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.